One of the amazing things about carnivore is that we've been able to lose weight without being hungry.
Yes, and we've maintained it effortlessly.
Yes.
And I get hungry around mealtime.
Yes, you do.
I don't know if you get hungry or not.
Not always.
Not really. But I do get hungry still. And there may be a reason for that we're going to get into. But today and right now, as we record this at 2:00 p.m., I'm hungry. And I want to be. In fact, it's telling me that what I'm doing is working.
I'm JJ. I am a life coach and I eat mostly meat.
I'm Eric. I'm a novelist and I eat mostly meat if I'm eating at all.
Yes. So you had this huge epiphany recently.
Yeah. And I have a CGM in right now, and it really is a troubleshooting device to try to figure out some things about my blood labs. I'm working with a practitioner and they wanted to see this data. And as soon as I put it in, I was shocked to discover my glucose is 115, 120 all of the time.
Well, surely you've been cheating.
I have not been cheating.
You've been a little less than compliant.
I have been eating really compliant carnivore for months.
Yes.
And you know this.
I do.
Except for, a little bit of sauerkraut.
Yes.
But that's not enough to make this change. Now, this is one of those things that some long-term carnivores see, is this slow creep up of fasting glucose.
I've seen it.
In yourself.
Yeah.
And increase of A1C. We all know that A1C thing may not be a problem.
I was just going to ask, is that really, really a problem?
Right, because we've all seen the Dr. Berry videos and the Ben Bickman videos and the other videos that maybe in carnivores, our blood cells live longer, and that affects the calculation of A1C, and so it doesn't mean much.
We've even heard that a higher blood sugar that is physiological rather than pathological is fine.
Yeah, maybe it makes no difference.
Maybe it makes no difference at all.
Well, I was also curious because I hadn't checked my ketones in a long time, but I was not surprised when I used my Keto Mojo. The blood sugar reading with the Keto Mojo and the CGM were pretty close, and the ketones were very low. But they were there, which tells me that there's some ketone production, which you would expect on carnivore.
Now, why would someone want ketone production? Why is that important?
Well, we're big advocates for the whole brain energy concept popularized by Dr. Chris Palmer and Dr. Georgia Ede, who wrote Change Your Diet, Change Your Mind, for mental health, mental clarity, mental acuity, among all the other benefits that come along with burning ketones that supposedly our hearts love it. And it just gives us clean energy. And I was always just kind of like, well, if I just eat a compliant carnivore diet, I don't have to worry about it. My body will sort it out. And for the most part, it has. But longtime viewers of our channel will know that I've had very stubborn triglycerides, even to over 2.5 years in. My HDL finally this year popped up into the 60s, which was delightful. And there's some other indicators that metabolically things are changing, but the triglycerides always is suggestive of insulin resistance lingering, but my insulin is really pretty low.
Yeah.
So, and with blood glucose being high and I'm not eating any, the only culprit is the liver is producing glucose through gluconeogenesis.
And what is
Gluconeogenesis is the liver's taking, I think, primarily protein, and it's turning it into glucose to stuff into the bloodstream to supply the body, the brain, muscles with the needed glucose for moving and thinking.
Because the body does need some glucose.
Right. It doesn't need that much.
We don't think it needs exogenous glucose, though,
No.
because the liver does that function.
And carnivores live for decades and decades. Like, think of Maggie, who's in her 80s, and she doesn't eat carbs. She's doing pretty well.
She's no slowdown in that cattle rancher.
Plenty of carnivores are not having a problem keeling over because their livers fail to produce enough glucose for the very small demand that's necessary. So this has gotten me thinking, well, I need to do an experiment to try to see if I can get this solved, because one of the things is I want more ketones, and I feel like, well, if gluconeogenesis is high, the liver is not going to choose to make a lot of ketones.
Why not?
Because there's no demand for the energy because it's being supplied by glucose. Mm-hmm. And if there's no signal going back to the liver to say, you know what, let's make all of this fat in all of this excess triglycerides that I have. My triglycerides are 164 the last test I had.
And that was good.
A long-term carnivore, you'd expect it to be under 100, right? Well, the best I've ever seen is 115.
Yeah.
So that problem is not solved. And it's a simple thing for the liver, if it decides to break up the triglycerides into free fatty acids and turn it into ketones. So I want to put the squeeze on the liver.
Ah, so that's the big shift that you're thinking.
This is the experiment. Now, Dr. Saiva says, well, add a little bit of carbs and that will exercise insulin. Insulin will go up. That will push glucagon down, and that will discourage gluconeogenesis.
Now, what is glucagon?
Glucagon is a hormone?
I think so.
And it's a signal to the liver that I need either glucose or ketones, and it probably does other things.
So by pushing it down, you want to lower it, right?
Yeah.
So you're lowering that signal.
By increasing insulin, because insulin suppresses it. Because if insulin's up, theoretically, why is insulin up? It's because there's carbs that need to be shoved into fat cells. Mm-hmm. And so if insulin's up, then glucagon doesn't want to signal the liver, make more carbs, because the body's already trying to get rid of the carbs. Mm-hmm. So the idea here is if you supplement some carbs, you exercise insulin, it goes up, that pushes glucagon down, and gluconeogenesis relaxes.
Just relax.
And in fact, Kelly Hogan had a video where she did this experiment by taking honey 2 days in a row, and her rising blood glucose dropped back down into the 80s and 70s where she was kind of used to seeing it. So I did that experiment.
You did.
I took a tablespoon of honey. To my carnivore palate, it was ungodly horrible in texture and taste, but I got it down. And my blood sugar shot up to incredible 177. Mm-hmm. And within 45 minutes, it was back down to baseline. So there was no doubt that I can produce and release insulin readily.
So your insulin came in, took care of that dump, and you're all good.
No.
Oh.
Because while I did see my overnight blood sugars on the CGM go a little bit lower after the second day, drop down to 92, I'm a carnivore. I should wake up and it should be an 80, right? Okay, there's dawn effect. Maybe I wake up and it's 95, but then it drops back down unless I eat something, right? So I was like, I've had it. It's just against everything in me to want to spike insulin through honey.
Well, did the honey throw you off the rails? I want to know that too.
It did not spark any sugar cravings whatsoever.
Okay.
It was too much. Mm-hmm. If I had instead eaten ice cream or cake, it might have done the job, but maybe a tablespoon wasn't enough. Okay. I don't know. It's like 17 grams of sugar. But I got to thinking, wait a minute, there's a different calculation. There's a different framework, a way of looking at this. And that was to put the squeeze on the liver by, one, I am going to exercise fasted and deplete glycogen stores in the muscle and glucose stores in the liver. Now, I went into it knowing there's no way I was going to get it all out. Yeah. Because honestly, you can't, because you die if you don't have any. But you can definitely drain the tank down pretty low through exertion. So I did an hour ruck with 30 pounds. Now that's mostly zone 2. That's going to be a lot of fat burning, but there are some hills and there's definitely some glucose demand because I could watch the CGM and see an initial dip as I tapped into some blood glucose and then a rise as my liver responded by releasing some because it sensed, oh, hey, we're doing exercise. I cannot allow us to be short on available glucose. And so actually, while I exercised, it went up. And then I was done with my hour ruck and I was quite sweaty and gross. And I came in and I said, I'm not done.
No way, liver.
No, liver. You think that's all I'm going to do? No, that's just like the warm up. And then I proceeded to do a whole bunch of one leg Bulgarian split squats to failure. So not super heavy. I just wanted to keep doing reps, get that burn going as signaling that it's starting to run out of ready fuel. And then I switched to push-ups and some sort of a weird down dog shoulder push-up. I did a long planks. Then I went downstairs here and I did kettlebell shoulder presses. I did more push-ups. I did some bicep curls. I did some deadlifts until for an hour. So the intensity wasn't super high, but it was just like continuously focusing on getting the muscle really, really exhausted, using up the stored glycogen and forcing then the liver to release more and more and more.
So the burn was was your goal.
That was sort of my goal because you want to kind of go to failure because the failure of a muscle doesn't mean your muscle isn't strong anymore. What fails is the substrate to power the contraction. So you want to exhaust that. And then, during the interval when you're doing some other exercise, it's sucking the glucose in from the blood so that you can do another round. Now, obviously, it's never quite as strong the next time around because there's other aspects of fatigue that are kicking in. And so I just want to keep working it, different muscle groups, and deplete in order to create a vacuum for the liver to release as much as it can release. And as I watched my CGM during that hour, my blood glucose kept going up, which meant that the liver was easily keeping pace with my exertion. Had I been doing this as a sort of a marathon level, I would have been able to run on sugar for a long, long time. And then I got to a point where my legs were shaking and I had to think in terms of what was practical because I don't want to be so immobile from muscle soreness that I can't do anything for the rest of the week.
That'll go against your plan.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I don't want to get into such exhaustion that my form breaks and I injure myself. Because that sets me back even more.
Okay.
So I can't do a complete depletion, but I can do a good amount.
So you're depleting the glucose in your blood.
Yep.
In your muscles.
Yep.
And then trying to deplete it from your liver as well.
Yeah. And mostly I'm targeting that liver.
Okay.
Is where I really want to get to. Because the other phase is I'm not eating. And I haven't eaten since 4:30 yesterday. So there is no incoming anything. There's no fat incoming. There's definitely no protein for gluconeogenesis to use as materials.
Now, you have mentioned you've done some longer term fasts pre-carnivore.
Yes, I have.
Yeah.
I did a 5-day and then I did a 4-day.
Okay. So you've done that type of fasting and that experience for you, how was it?
Horrible. I wasn't in ketosis when I did the first one. And so it was just appalling.
Yeah. So I know that during carnivore, I have done fasting most of my carnivore journey. I've taken a little bit of a break the last couple months, going to get back to it. But you have not been a faster then. You've been fairly resistant to it because of your experiences in the past.
Yeah.
Right? You didn't want to white knuckle it or anything anymore. And like you said, you are hungry at meal times, which I find fascinating because I feel like most carnivores can stretch their intermittent fasting window out more, and they can also shrink their eating window more. And you don't seem to be able to do that. You're like, oh my gosh, I'm starving. I feel lightheaded. So fasting hasn't been for you.
And
Yeah.
in the presence of high blood sugar. So it's not low blood sugar that's making me have that hunger,
Right.
which is weird, right?
You know that now. Yeah. for
Yeah.
sure.
So what's going on? There must be other, I mean, certainly it could be time of day signals to
Yeah.
be hungry, but there's just something is not optimal. So that's why I feel like I'm in this little bit of a metabolic no man's land that I need to shake out of. So we'll see. No food coming in, and I've done the hard exercise to do some pre-exhaustion of the glycogen stores. What I'm kind of doing is accelerating what happens naturally on a water fast, right?
Yes.
Is that if I had just stopped eating in a day or two, I would be where I'm at now.
Yeah.
But I'm an impatient person in some ways. But I also felt like just in general, I need more energy usage to signal to the system that it had better get its act together. Because one of the things that can happen with not eating, a move that can be made is, oh, we'll just make you feel terrible so that you don't move.
Well, and I was going to mention that because when you've tried to fast in the past, you've treated it like sick days. You felt crummy.
Yeah.
And you haven't done much of anything, and you've been suffering.
Yep.
And I mean the mental suffering, right? So it's not so much even physical. Well, there was physical suffering too.
Yeah.
But mentally, it's like, oh, this sucks. This really stinks. I'm not enjoying this, but I'm doing it anyway.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I needed to not do fasting because I hated that suffering.
Right.
But today, with this experiment, I found an extraordinary mental shift happened. And that was because I knew the mechanisms that I was trying to manipulate through my actions. The hunger was a signal that I was doing something right and good, and it was working. Because honestly, when I got up this morning, I wasn't particularly hungry, a little bit, but I was like, not eating because I'm going to do this experiment. And deep into the workout, my stomach started to rumble, and I was like, aha, the whole system is sensing what's happening here, and it knows I haven't eaten it, and it knows what this demand is like. And there's hormonal signals going, we better take on some more food if we're going to keep this up, because the liver is starting to get a little nervous because it doesn't have any substrate to make more glucose out of, and its little tank is starting to drain. And I was like, suck it, liver.
So you were So you were celebrating instead of suffering.
Right. It was the same hunger sensation, but my whole mindset was good. And the same thing was true with the workout. Now, I do resistance workouts, I do sprints, I do long rucks, but my focus is always like, this is an exertion I need to do to be healthy. And that's sort of the mental frame.
And I've heard you say, and I stopped when it started to feel sketchy.
Yeah, right.
You use the word sketchy a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I tend to feel sketchy when under exertion because of lingering anxiety issues. And that when you're anxious about something, that is where your focus goes. So for me, that would be on heart rate, palpitations, sense of energy, whether I'm mildly nauseated feeling. And when I say nauseated, that's a very strong term for a very vague sensation for me. It's just like an ill at ease sensation. These are all things that most people probably filter out of their awareness without realizing it. But because I'm vigilant for it, I notice it, and the vigilance magnifies it. But today, since I'm going to go out and burn off a whole bunch of muscle glycogen and drain the tank of the liver, the exertion felt good and positive because the frame was, hey, it's working. When I was doing Bulgarian split squats, which if you've never done a Bulgarian split squat, your back leg is up on a bench and your front leg is in front of you and you're squatting. And so all of your weight is pretty much on one leg, and they're horrible and very effective. And in this case, instead of monitoring how my heart rate was climbing, I was focused entirely on my quadriceps and glute muscle and feeling the contraction and trying to maximize tension in order to get fatigue, and kept doing rep after rep. Normally, maybe I would do 8 or 10. I didn't even count, but it was way more than 20 because I could do it. And until the muscle was telling me, you need to stop doing this or you're going to explode with fire in your quadriceps, I was going to keep doing it. And when between sets, I wasn't thinking about what's my heart rate. I got to wait for my heart rate to come down. I was like, no, I've got other muscles that weren't worked just now. I'm going to work them. And the workout was entirely different. And it felt really good. And I was watching, not my heart rate, I was watching my glucose monitor, it's a little bit delayed because it only pulls the CGM every 15 minutes. But every 15 minutes, I would look at it and my blood glucose was higher.
Yes.
And I would go, good. Because that means the liver is like panicked and now it's dumping even more of it.
Pump it. And
every time I do these contractions with the muscle and then I rest, that muscle's going and sucking that in and it's not in the liver. And since I'm not feeding it, the liver is now faced with a choice, JJ.
What is that choice?
The liver must decide.
I'm imagining a liver like, what is it? In the detective where they've got the bright light on it and it's sitting there.
Yeah, just like we are right now. The liver has to make a decision about what it's going to do because it doesn't have a choice but to make some energy. Now, it wants to do gluconeogenesis because that's what it's been doing. Mm-hmm. But it has no substrate for it because I haven't eaten and I'm not going to eat. I have given it a little bit of MCT oil to coax it into, turn this into ketones, warm up the ketone engine a little bit.
Which Dr. Boz recommends, actually. Yeah. She does recommend that you use either exogenous MCT or both, exogenous ketones and MCT, to prime the pump, just like you're saying, to really sort of go, okay, come on.
So I primed the pump after the exercise was done. Okay. It was like 2 teaspoons. It wasn't a whole lot because I didn't want gut problems. So the liver is going to decide, I've got to either make glucose or ketones. If I'm going to make glucose, I've got to catabolize some muscle tissue to get the protein. Or I can use this abundance of triglycerides in this idiot's blood, which, have been there all along. I could break those down into free fatty acids and just make ketones.
Now, let me just state then, it doesn't seem like the liver would want to catabolize the muscle. That's not good biology. That's not good for survival. Am I right?
No, that, to me, this is just my opinion. My liver has a mind of its own. But in my opinion, it should choose ketones because that would be survival advantageous over destroying muscle tissue, especially when there's plenty of fat available. Now, if I was extremely emaciated and there was no fat, it would have to choose muscle tissue.
Yes.
But as long as there's bountiful fat, and I'm 170 pounds, 6 foot tall. I'm body fat around 18% according to my scale. So I have plenty of adipose tissue. There's not a huge amount, but there's days and days and days and days of it available on board already if it chose to use it. So my thought is it's going to choose to make ketones. Now, let's just briefly here, for those who have stuck with us this long, making ketones is called ketogenesis. And we may be familiar with a diet called the ketogenic diet.
Yeah.
It's called ketogenic because you get into ketogenesis,
Yes.
not gluconeogenesis.
But don't you just get into ketogenesis by eating a lot of fat?
You go keto and you
Right.
start eating very little carbs, right? Under 10 grams or something, or at least under 20. And all of a sudden your liver's like, my blood sugar is going low, which it is because the whole system isn't predicated on producing lots of glucose. The liver isn't doing a lot of gluconeogenesis
Yep.
on a normal carb-heavy diet.
Yep.
So when you change it, the liver goes, and instead of making a whole bunch of glucose, it actually does make ketones. So I can already hear the comments that people have written because they didn't get to minute 25 or whatever this is going to be, is, Eric, you're just not eating enough fat and you're
Right.
eating too much protein.
Right.
I had thought that too way back last winter when I decided to eat high-fat carnivore to get my ketones up.
Again, with the practitioner's advice.
That's what they were suggesting. They were like, but the theory was insulin resistance. So I did this.
Your triglycerides went through the roof
They did.
when you added more fat.
I did a month of that, and my triglycerides were well over 350 after
So the
that.
fat was all floating around.
Yeah, but I felt terrible. There was something was still not quite adjusted. Wasn't, and I think now what it was is to get the high fat ratio, instead of exchanging some protein for fat, I ate the same amount of fat and protein and added fat, and basically just ate too much. And my body, for whatever reason, is terrible at dealing with triglycerides. And we had run into Dr. Ali Nadir's concept of lipotoxicity
Yep.
as one theory, and that may be playing a role in
Yeah.
it. But what I'm thinking now is I need to eat a high-fat carnivore, but I've got to exchange some protein for fat, not the same protein, add fat. Now, how I'm going to do that, we've talked about it. I think what I'm going to do is actually narrow my eating window, but it is 2:22 and already my blood sugar on the Keto Mojo was down below 100 and my ketones were 0.6 after putting the squeeze on today. I will keep tracking, and I might put an update from tomorrow morning in this video before I upload it.
So you don't know when you're going to eat.
I have not decided if I'm going to eat today because I still want to see that blood sugar come down. It's 116 right now. Maybe there was some still protein, some amino acids or something from the last meal yesterday available for gluconeogenesis. I might do some light air squats and stuff to do a little more depletion, but I got to be careful because I don't want to be incapacitated with soreness. But right now the lever is don't eat.
So presumably, too, you'll shorten your eating window
Yep.
so that you'll be taking in less protein predominantly, adding in some more fat. And presumably you won't be suffering because, one, the ketone production should go up. We're hoping for that.
Yep.
And number two, you've got the mindset piece right as well, where you're not going to be focusing on sketchiness or anything like that, but focused on it's working.
That doesn't mean that I won't enter a phase of malaise or feeling a little icky, but even that I'll be able to reinterpret as a positive, and I'll just add some electrolytes to my water, unflavored, and maybe add a little MCT to keep coaxing the liver down the right path. Because honestly, when I say I'm putting the squeeze on the liver is part of me. I'm not mad at my liver. It's just kind of like a child who doesn't understand what the boundaries are and how to behave. And once it does get the message and gets into ketone production, it's going to be happier.
Yeah.
It's going to feel better.
Yeah.
I'm going to feel better. The whole system's going to be happier. It just needs to get on board.
Right. And that is the hope, is that through addressing this, you will, you'll send your whole system, including your triglycerides and everything, will just be hopefully
Maybe it'll work.
moving a little bit better.
But another aspect to this is I could never have created the framework for this as clearly for myself if I wasn't constantly pulling in more videos, more reading. Yesterday we were at a meetup at the world famous Montello Theater with Carrie at Homestead Healing Humanity.
Yep.
And that panel, some of that information went in the brain and re-registered in a new way. It's really important to build these models and understand how the metabolism works. Understanding the metabolism we should start learning that in first grade. The days of learn about a diet and do it are in the past.
Yeah.
It's not enough to learn about a diet. It's important to understand what is the theory of the diet against the mechanisms of metabolism. And when you have those mechanisms, you can do experiments. And then when there's discomfort, you can reinterpret them as it's working.
This is a deep dive you're doing.
Yes.
A very deep dive. And we're nearing our 3-year into carnivore mark. So I just wanted to mention, if you are new to carnivore, just eat the meat.
Yeah, do beef, bacon, butter, and eggs, and don't worry.
Right?
Troubleshoot later.
Troubleshoot later down the path. And when you have data, because you've got a lot of data about you over the last couple of years. So
True enough.
Yeah. So with that,
Every day stronger.
every day more blessed.